Let's get back to our toggle. What code will we need to write to move the knob when we actually tap on it? In order to move the knob over here, we can use another attributes right here, line number 31, this X. If it's a 0, will be at the original place, but if we give it like 60, it'll move to the right, okay? So if it's 0, it's on the left, and if it's 60, it's on the right. We want to change the value of the X attribute when the user taps on it. How to detect when the user taps on it? We can use another attributes right here, line number 30, which is called onTap, and equal curly brackets. That's always this kind of format, right? And the value of this attribute is something special. Kind of like it's actually a function, like that. And now inside this function, this is the function, right? And we're gonna say we want to change the value in X equal something like that, right? Here we put the definition of a function over here inside the pair of curly brackets. This is different from this one, like what we have like this, just this line above it, line 29. Line 29 is the function call, and we'll just run the function and put the output there. And this one, we just stuff in a function definition, but don't call it yet. It's like carrying around a machine somewhere else to run it at another time. For this particular function, handle tap, it'll run when React detects that the user has tapped on the frame. Just to make sure it actually works, we'll put a console log right here, line number 32, console log, tapped. So if you go to over here to see the console, and when I tap on it, we'll see a tap text right here. You see? So if I tap it again, actually we're gonna see it twice. I just tapped twice. All right, so it works. Now we want to change what's in there. Line number 34, this X equal to 0. We can't just put a number there. Otherwise, we'll have to change the code in the editor manually whenever the user taps on the toggle. We want it to automatically work, right? This means that we need to use a variable here. A labeled bucket that we can fill in different values at different times. So let's say it's knob X. Now I've got an error because this is not defined, and let's define it, line number 27. Let it there be a bucket, the knob X, and let's say if it's 0, and the knob of the toggle will stay on the left, and if we change it to 60, it'll move to the right. By the way, this variable can be named as pretty much anything. I used to name it just X. And in that sense, like over here, I use X instead, line number 35. But that turned out to be confusing because we have two X's here, which one is which one. But as you can see, the first X over here, it is the attribute of the frame tag. And this X is the variable that we defined over here, line number 27. Okay, two X's, they're quite different. In the variable here, we can name it to be pretty much anything else. Whereas the X attribute right here has to be written this way, otherwise it won't work. Now we can actually change the comment here. This is no longer change the value over here. It's actually change the value of a knob X when the toggle is tapped by the user. Usually, if it's a variable, we can change its value this way. Knob X, let's say change it to 60. It's a number 60. But in React, this does not work. It does not work. And I'll explain why when we learn React State. For now, let me just type in what works. It's more fun to see our toggle becomes live, right? So now let me just actually comment it out. And over here on the top, we'll import something line number 3 called use cycle. And bear with me, and there's a bit of a typing right here. Line number 27, instead of that, we're gonna have a square bracket, and the second thing is called set knob x, and it's gonna equal to use cycle, and with two numbers 0 and 60. And over here in the onTap function, let me just make it smaller. onTap function, we're gonna just call this cycle set knob x. Actually, I should have name it differently. So let's call it a cycle knob x. Okay, that's a better name for this one. All right, if you look at the right side of the screen in the preview, it actually works now. But of course, don't be scared by what I've been typing here. This looks pretty alien, but I will explain in detail in the next video. However, there are indeed something you can recognize, right? For example, what's this use cycle? Why can we put a pair of parentheses after it? And what are these numbers, 0 and 60? Use cycle is a function, right? We call this function and provide it with two parameters, 0 and 60. So this function is slightly different from what we have seen over here, where like the sandwich maker, it only has one parameter, and we can actually accept two parameters like meat and separate by a comma, veggie, like that. So that's that's where we can see over here. It actually accepts two parameters like that. What about this cycle knob x? It's a function too, right? We call it without providing any parameter. For use cycle, we use its output, and in this kind of way that I will explain a bit later. But this cycle knob x, just like this console log, we don't care about its output. We just call it, and it's like a heater that makes the room warm, right? Okay, cool. We've seen this onTap attribute for which we can provide a function, like right here. It'll run when React detects that the user taps on the frame. For the x attribute, we give it a variable so that we can change it later on. Next, let's study what's going on here with these square brackets.